on by Michaela! Lovely cushion header. And Gerrard! What a head, son! What a head!
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Premier League Trio. I'm joined today by my good friend Jerry, who's back again after quite a while away. But it's great to have you back on the show, and we're going to talk about Chelsea. So how are you doing today, mate? I see you're repping the full Chelsea hat, the Chelsea shirt, and the Chelsea glass.
Yeah, I got the glass over here too. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm excited. Chelsea's back next Sunday. Then afterwards, they got Lazio on Wednesday and Chelsea again on Thursday. So it's good to see my club back and playing. But first is Chelsea, like I just said, next Sunday against Aston Villa. So I'm excited to see how this team is gonna return, what kind of form they're gonna show, and what Lampard has in store for us going forward with the remaining matches.
Absolutely, man. And we were both talking, weren't we, before that we were looking so bad. We had a little bit of a shave and had to get ready for this because obviously both of us haven't been doing anything. So you're looking fresh, mate. Looks like you've just trimmed down the beard and you're looking a bit more presentable.
No, I shaved today actually after a month. So if you had seen me 2 hours ago, you would have thought it was like a
homeless
playoff
guy.
beer. Yeah, exactly. Or a playoff beer where you're the superstition of not like shaving it off and just going with until the run is all done.
Love it. That's amazing. So today we're going to talk about Chelsea, and we'll have one little question on Pogba, because I know that Jerry loves Paul Pogba. He's his favorite player. So we'll have a little discussion about him right at the end. But let's just go straight into it. So with Chelsea poised to sign Timo Werner, which I think is a real statement of intent by the club. I mean, you look at Chelsea signings in the last 2 or 3 years, and they haven't exactly been, apart from maybe Jorginho, haven't exactly been stellar signings or big name signings. So what's your view on Werner, and where do you see him fitting in the starting 11?
Well, this year they have him playing out as, I believe, as a false 9, or actually no, they have him playing in so many different positions. He's played on the left wing, the right wing, as a number 10, as a number 9, as a false 9. And Julian Nagelsmann has basically said that my player Werner, he can play a free roam type of game, and it has allowed him to just play a game that not many can play, such as himself. He's a very versatile player, and this is something that will really benefit Chelsea. Now, a lot of people are going to think, well, what does that mean for Abraham, Pulisic, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Hakim Ziyech, who's coming in? And I think that the fact that you got Pulisic, who can play on the left and right wing. You got Abraham, who's solidified as a number 9, and we know that most of the games he's going to be there. And then you got Callum Hudson-Odoi, who can play left and right, and Hakim Ziyech, who can shift as a number 10 and can play on the wing as well. So these players are all versatile, such as Werner. So I don't think a lot of players will be in jeopardy of losing their position. And the biggest thing is that Lampard has options now. He's got versatility options here, like the versatility positioning here. He has players that can play all over the field, and he can change his formation, his lineups up every week. And we know that he likes to play the 4-3-3. He's elected to play different formations this season, but I see that Werner will play on the left wing, probably mostly. He can shift into other positions in the field. I think that the left wing is something that he's been more accustomed to. And the biggest thing is injuries, and we've seen that Abraham, when he gets hurt, where does the scoring come from? No one has.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? It's true. Well, Batshuayi looks like he's out the door now, and good riddance, to be honest, because I think he's been a bit of a disaster.
No.
But the question is, though, I mean, so the way I see it is that Chelsea clearly, you're right, versatility was one of the key factors in signing Werner. So Chelsea were linked to Dries Mertens, as you're very familiar, being a big Italian football fan. They were linked heavily with Aubameyang as well. So clearly Lampard wanted a striker that could play anywhere across the front three. But for me, if I'm spending close to £50 million on Timo Werner. Why would I pay him out on the left, even though I think he is a number 9? I mean, that's just my thinking as an outsider looking in. I mean, you look at, for example, Liverpool, they were very heavily linked to him. He wanted to go there. And we were discussing off air that you think that he's a better fit for Chelsea. Is that because you don't think he'd fit into their front three and displace anyone?
Absolutely. That front three with Sane, you got Salah, and I believe Firmino up front.
Yeah, Firmino, and Mane as well, yeah.
Yeah, they're just so molded. The chemistry. You take one of those players out, and it's like you have a car that for the engine to keep going properly. And with Jurgen Klopp's front three there, they're so molded that they know each other's steps, where they're going to be, what is expected of themselves. The element of the game is just there. Like, I found that in practice, they must like.
It's like second nature, isn't it?
Yeah,
Everything's
exactly.
second nature. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, in football, like everyone knows what's the next step going to be. That's the biggest question in football, is that you're always guessing what the next play is going to be, the next moment's going to be. And I feel that all three of those players just know what their habits are, and they just know what to expect into the next play, into the next decision. And that's what makes them so good. And you get Timo Werner, who comes in, and will it work the same? His style of play could be a little bit different, and something that all three players will need to adjust and become more accustomed to. So, and how much playing time will he get? Well, He'll probably play FA Cup, probably. He'll play the odd Champions League match, maybe. But Jurgen Klopp likes to stick to his guns and his starting 11. And when I just don't see him breaking something that's not broken yet.
When I look at Chelsea's options, I think what you've seen this season is that, like you said, when Abraham is injured, then you've struggled for goals. I think also it allows Frank to have that tactical flexibility. This season, apart from the 4-3-3, I think you have to look, and he hasn't been able to play two up top. And you can imagine Werner sort of buzzing behind Abraham, playing that second striker role, really using his pace.
And replace a poor performance, because he's so bad. Like we saw his performance against Manchester United. Terrible. Like, just so terrible. He
One of the worst performances from a striker I've seen in a long time. He missed so many chances. I mean, the game finished 2-0. It could easily have been, with the chances he had, he's just got at least twice. But I think when you're looking at it now, I think it's a great signing. When you see the options now that Lampard has, I mean, people are forgetting, like you said, Hakim Ziyech. People are forgetting that you signed him for 35 million. He has been one of the most creative attacking midfielders or wingers, let's say, in the whole of Europe. Along with Van der Beek, I think has been very good for Ajax. He's been their best player. So now you have a look and you can see that you've got Pulisic, I think Hudson-Odoi needs to put his head down and work a little bit harder, because I don't think that he's really kicked on since his injury. But yeah, I think it gives Frank that tactical flexibility, and I think if Werner can even show half of what he's showing at Leipzig, I think he'll really push on and really push Chelsea towards challenging.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right there.
Awesome. So let's go to the next question. So how would you rate Chelsea's season till the point where the season was cut off, and what Frank done that's impressive? Because we had this conversation last time, and what we both, I mean, you're a big supporter of Frank, because there are a lot of Chelsea fans at the time saying he's not good enough, he's not experienced enough, and I still think that to an extent. But if you think about Chelsea having a transfer ban, and you actually think about how well he's done to have them sitting in fourth place, I think it's been a really impressive season, and exactly what Chelsea can hope for. I don't think you could have done much better. I don't think you have the squad or the depth to challenge. So what would you say has impressed you with Frank this season?
The fact that he's been able to live up to expectations and deal with the pressure. He hasn't cracked. There has been games where I can't recall right now, but there has been moments where his starting lineups were not what fans are wanting. Always seeing Mason Mount starting in the lineup, and a lot of people don't like that. But for me, I'm okay with Mason Mount starting, because he needs the experience. He needs to grow. And those are decisions that a lot of managers are dealt with. And a lot of the time, they just go with the experience, the well-known players over the inexperienced players and the players that don't have that background that they have developed for so many years. So I'm very happy that that he's been able to stick with Tammy Abraham up front, and we've seen Mason Mount go up through up and downs. He had a good performance against Aston Villa, I believe, back in December after a poor match prior to that one. He's been the one player that I've really focused on this year, because people don't understand he's still 19, just turned 20, I believe, and he came from Derby County last year with Frank Lampard. Lampard understands the type of player he is. He's always been in the youth academy.
What do you reckon his best position is? Because he's played on the left a little bit. I think he's much better as most advanced midfielder. Let's say if you're playing three in midfield, you've got, let's say, a Kante sitting. So let's say I reckon he's closer to a number 10 rather than playing as a 6 and deeper. What's your opinion on him?
I like more advanced. I think he's very attack-minded, and he gives another option to score. I think the biggest area that he's recognized that he needs to fix is that he's forcing shots into coverage. When there's no open lanes, he's just shooting into anything. He's shooting way too far out the 18-yard box, and it's not going on target, or it's just a wasted opportunity. And he's recognized that he needs to have more patience with the ball, hold it more longer, look for his teammate, maybe a clear pass he can make instead of just forcing into nothing. So, and this is a player that is still learning, is growing, but it's the maturity side that he's understanding that there is a lot to learn in his game. And when Frank Lampard calls him out, he's taking responsibility and accountability. And for a 20-year-old to do that speaks highly about himself. So
he's shown a lot of maturity, hasn't he? Like all the young Chelsea players, what I've been most impressed with is the fact that Chelsea have had a transfer ban, and that's huge. I mean, you look at the way some of the other clubs have spent money improving, and Chelsea haven't been able to do that. And essentially, in very key positions, you look at centre back Tomori, you look Reece James, I think is an absolute beast and will be a very, very good player. And you look at Mount, you look at Abraham. These young players have been put in and they've been expected to just sink or swim. And a lot of them have swum. And the problem is that, and we spoke about this last time, that the modern football fan, these young players are going to have inconsistencies. They're going to be up and down. And when they have a bad game, it's just, oh, Mount's rubbish. Mount's not good enough. Need to sell him. And it makes it so draining, because back in the day before social media, a young player wouldn't have this much scrutiny and spotlight on them. So in that respect, you've got to say that Frank's managed them really well, and they've really stepped up. I mean, Abraham scored how many goals? I think like 12 or 13 goals this season so far, I believe.
Yeah, 13 he has, and just to go back on Timo Werner, that's another area that is really concerning, because Mason Mount is second in scoring with 6 goals, I believe. And when you have attacking midfielder as number 2 in scoring, and you only have one player who scored double-digit goals this year, it's kind of concerning, especially that they average around 16 or 17 shots per game. That's like insane. Yeah. You need to at least get 3 goals, 2 goals on average, and they're averaging around 1.5 goals per game right now, and it's decent. But with the defense that we have and the inability to do any zone marking, our set pieces coverage is so bad, it's not even funny. And
your keeper contributes to that as well, I think. I don't think he's good enough, Kepa. Doesn't inspire confidence. I mean, if you're looking back, it reminds me of when De Gea first came to the Premier League, and De Gea was tipped to be the next big thing. And when he initially came, it hasn't been as bad, but he was really bad on the high ball. And having a goalkeeper that's uncertain and jittery doesn't matter how experienced. I mean, we had at the time, we had Nemanja Vidic, Rio Ferdinand, Patrice Evra, and Antonio Valencia playing in our back four. It doesn't matter how good they are. They were concerned because one mind was on the back, and maybe that's a problem for them, the defenders.
Absolutely. I just Tomori started off very well, and then he became a little shaky. And you had Zuma, who's had good and bad performances, and Christian Eriksen. I don't think he's physical enough in the goal area. I think that's his biggest downfall, but has been good at times as well. Though Reece James has been consistent, I find he's going to be a great replacement for Azpilicueta, and
Yeah, agreed.
and I believe who else we have? Emerson. Emerson was
Emerson
starting.
and Alonso.
I'm okay with I'm okay with Alonso. I honestly think that he takes a little bit too much heat because he is better suited for a 3-5-2. I find.
Yeah, he's Conte's perfect left back.
Yes, he needs, because in a 3-5-2 he'll get support from the midfield. They'll come back into support him, so it will come into a 4 or 5 backfield.
So that he can focus on attacking, because he's a massive threat. I mean, I can't think of another wing back that has that, who scores as many good goals. I mean, he scores some absolute bangers. I mean, he's got a great shot. He strikes the ball really beautifully. He's very big. He's a presence. I mean, I agree with you. He gets a lot of flack. Is he good enough at left back? No, probably not. But again, Emerson, I don't think is a bad player either. I know Sarri's interested in him. I know Juve are looking. And we're not going to talk about Chilwell because you don't like Chilwell. But look, it looks like Chelsea are looking. But I look at Chelsea's back four, and this brings me on nicely to the next question. Like, Chelsea is showing a lot of ambition right now. If I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be so excited because you're starting to see Abramovich, like the Abramovich of old, when he used to go out and spend 150, 200 million pounds on top upcoming players or really exciting players. And what you're seeing now, though, is I think there is definitely a sign that they see Lampard as a long-term solution to Chelsea's manager position. Do you think that this is a sign that they are supporting Frank, that they think he can lead you to the title? Because in some ways, if you're spending that much money, it shows that they expect him to be around longer than, let's say, 2 to 3 years at Chelsea. Normally have a manager there before. But for me, when I look at that side, the attack looks really exciting, but that defense is shocking. I mean, apart from Reece James at right back, you could buy a whole new back line. And if you're not investing in that, then it's giving Frank no chance. Because defenses win titles.
No, you're absolutely right. And I just don't know why we keep on being linked to buying midfielders. And there's been names that have been rumored to come to Chelsea. And that's one area I find that we do not need to upgrade. You got a Billy Gilmore who has shown in matches this season that he can take it to the next level and needs playing time. And you got Kovacic, who has been a great signing because they took the option and they had no choice in a way, but it was such a great option to pick up on. And he's playing so good this year compared to last year. And you got Jorginho.
I would say.
Yeah, you're right. Then you got Jorginho, who I personally like, and I think that you need to take these players' qualities and use them as to what they're good for. He's a great pass make. He can pass the ball very well. He advances the ball up greatly. He's a good leader. Honestly, like anytime that they have opposition scores, you can see in his face how disappointed he is. He really likes the club. He likes being in London. He likes playing for Chelsea. He's never complained. He's never like when the fans are not happy, he's never made that an issue. And he understands how passionate the fans are. But I think that
what's interesting, Jerry. Sorry, just interrupt about Jorginho. You make some great points about him, and you've watched him at in Serie A. You watch Serie A more than the Premier League, and you've watched him, and he was one of the standout performers for Sarri. And I think the issue was that when he came over, he was seen as like Sarri's right-hand man, and he was the one that's going to get Sarri, essentially going to be the conductor of the Sarri ball, and it didn't really work out that much for Sarri. I think he did better than people actually say. But what you found now is he stepped out of Sarri's shadow, and apparently he hasn't spoken to Sarri in over a year. So it's not like they're always speaking and Sarri saying come to Juve. He's really happy. He's vice captain under Lampard. He's become a bit of a fan favorite for Chelsea fans because they're now starting to see the quality he can bring. And like you said, he's a leader and he's really settled well into London. So like, how do you see that midfield working out? Because you've also still got Kante, which you haven't mentioned yet. So let's say you've got Gilmore, you've got Loftus-Cheek, Kante. you've got Kovacic and Jorginho. Playing that 4-3-3 system, and I don't think Kante's really good the last few years because he's always looking better in a 2, or he's been asked to play further forward. So what would you do? Because I think one of them's got to leave, in my opinion, because there's just no space. And with Gilmore's emergence, and he's been brilliant when he was one of the standout players for Chelsea. So is it Kante that needs to go because he doesn't fit the system? He's been injury prone. He's your highest paid player, or is it Jorginho?
I would sell Kante. Anytime you have a player who cannot play a full season, consistently injured, and someone's knocking on your door and is willing to take a gamble and pay a good price for him, sell him. Because I think that at this point, yes, people keep on pegging him as one of the best box-to-box midfielders. He can play on the defensive side. He's shown last year he can play even offensively. I just take out Kante because Jorginho is never hurt. Kovacic never hurt. Billy Gilmore is young, and he can play as a box-to-box kind of midfielder, which he showed in against Liverpool, I believe. He had a really good game in the FA Cup.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And then Loftus-Cheek. Okay, with Loftus-Cheek, people are going to say, is he going to come back the same player because he has an Achilles injury? He's still very young.
And back injuries as well. He's had really bad back. They were saying that he kept on being close to come back, and then he was getting injured. And if it's a persistent injury, can you rely on him? It doesn't matter how good you are. If you're injury prone, that's it.
I think that with Loftus-Cheek, you need to be patient until he comes back. You don't rush a guy who's very young, still has a lot of upside in his game. He's just begun his career, and so you don't just rush anybody back from an Achilles injury. And that's another thing with like Kai Havertz and Odoi up front, and he's started off very slow, and now he's excelled to that level that people were waiting for. And a lot of fans don't remember or forget that an Achilles injury is the worst injury a football player can get.
Yeah.
Like,
that's career ending. He came back really quickly as well. I'm pretty sure he came back in under a year. And there were talks that, player does his Achilles at the age of 19, I think he is, or he was at the time. That's it. Career over. And he's been getting a lot of stick. I think, I don't know if you've seen, I'm sure you have, but like there was that whole rape allegation against him as well, which he's been cleared of. And that's a lot. And, my thing about Hudson-Odoi is I think he's supremely talented. I'd even go close to saying that if I look in the Premier League, I look at Mason Greenwood, I think he's a great talent. I look at Martinelli as well at Arsenal. I think Hudson-Odoi is also in that category of young players that could be very, very good. Definitely upcoming stars. But unless he puts his head down and works, because now you've got, like we were saying earlier, you've got Pulisic, you've got Werner, Ziyech, you've got all these options now, Mason Mount. You've got to fight for your place. Otherwise, and do you think he's got the mentality to do that?
It's a good question. I think he will, because I think everyone's gonna have a good mindset, because Frank Lampard is a very honest and open person, and he doesn't favor one player over another. He favors players who are coming to practice, giving 110%, and they are on the bench waiting for their opportunity, are 100% fit, and know that if they're called upon, they go on the field and they do what their task is asked about. So I think that's the respect of what the players have shown to him and what he has earned as well. So
Lampard, his status as a Chelsea legend, that helps. It must do.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And he also understands too that these players, he mentioned before that it's not easy, the youth academy, to come out and become a starter inside the starting 11 for Chelsea. And I think he wants to change that. He wants the youth academy players to understand that there is an opportunity to be playing in the starting 11 for Chelsea, and that we don't loan you out 5 seasons in a row, 6 seasons in a row.
Massive fee. Well, that's very interesting. That's a great point. You make a really great point that this seems to be a different Chelsea. Chelsea going in a different direction. What you've seen in the past is that Chelsea spend big, I think Chelsea are the best side up there with. I mean, Dortmund are seen as a stepping stone club, but I don't think Chelsea are. Chelsea are they're a top side in Europe. And I think what you're seeing is that there's no club better. And this is Marina, and this is Chelsea's whole model where, for example, Batshuayi, you'll probably go and sell him for like 40 odd million. Like you bought him for 25 million. I mean, it's incredible. And now what you're seeing, I think, is Chelsea finally, because they've invested, they used to bring in a lot of youngsters into the academy. And do you remember Lucas Piazon, who's the Brazilian player? He's been on Fulham for like the last 6 years on loan.
Yes.
But they're bringing these sort of players, really highly rated, send them out on loan to the Dutch league, Vitesse, I believe, and essentially what Chelsea used to do is they used to sell them for massive fees. And I don't think there's a better club than Chelsea at selling players for big fees. But now you're starting to see the academies coming through. You've got a manager that actually wants to trust youth. And now you're seeing that the academy's flourishing. And then you have the money there and you think, okay, well, I'm going to spend it wisely because I want to build a team around Gilmore and, let's say, Loftus-Cheek and players like that, and Abraham. And then you add people like Werner and Ziyech to make it better. So it must be quite exciting as a Chelsea fan to see that, rather than seeing in the past whether you're spending 35 million on drink water, which is awful, or you're just not investing in the youth.
Drink water, my God, what a waste of money. And if you can get 40 million for Michy Batshuayi, I don't know what you have told clubs to take this guy, but he is terrible. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't like not even the skill. I think he has the skill level to score goals. I really do. Because if at the end of the day, no one's crap, because how did he get there in the first place? Well, he worked his way to get into the Premier League. I think what really hurts his game is his attitude. And there's moments where he'll look really good. And then there's moments where, like I said earlier, the one game always stands out to me is Manchester United, and it just didn't look like he wanted to be on the field. And you're given the opportunity to be a starter for a club such as Chelsea, and you talked about wanting to like earn your spot with the club, and you're not showing it. And a guy like Frank Lampard is not going to take crap. And that's one thing I would say compared to Maurizio Sarri last year, is that the way he benched Kepa this year and didn't take his crap. And there's been other players probably in the starting lineup where he's benched and said, too bad. I'm not Christian Pulisic earlier in the year.
Yeah, was
Pulisic was another one.
And he managed him well, and then he came in and scored a hat-trick.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember the reports? I mean, when we recorded the podcast was actually when Pulisic wasn't playing. And he slowly eased him in. And that's good. Something I think you knew what you mentioned is that he's got really good man management. Like he seems to, like he's learned under Jose. You know, he obviously Jose was the master at man management back in the day. You know, the players have changed now, though. That's the problem. That's why Jose's not getting through to what he used to, because he wants players. He thinks you can go out in public and shout at, you know, and abuse your players or throw them under the bus. But they're not John Terry anymore, Frank Lampard. They're a different breed. You know, it doesn't work to say Paul Pogba is a virus or he needs to work harder, because it just, you know, look what he's doing to Ndombele, for example. But where I have doubts about Lampard, and I'll openly say this, and I might get abuse from a lot of Chelsea fans, I think Lampard's done a great job. But the question is did the job come too early? Is he good enough tactically to go and win the title? Because I look at Solskjaer, right? And so you've got Solskjaer, Arteta, and Lampard. If I had to choose between the three, and I hate Arsenal, but I honestly think Arteta looks like the one who's got the most about him tactically. I think he looks like a good manager. Solskjaer, for me, I have my doubts about him. I don't think we'll win the title under him. But what he's done well, considering the circumstances, is he's brought the club together. Clearly, the players want to play for him. He's got clearly his personality, they like him. Tactically, unless you play counter-attacking football, he struggled against the small sides. So then we come to Frank Lampard. Similar again, he's brought the club together. There's a harmony, there's a good atmosphere around the players. But tactically, he's been found wanting quite a few times. So the question is that, you know, can Chelsea afford to allow him to learn on the job? Because when you're going spending and backing him 150 million and then he doesn't get top four, he doesn't challenge, like that's not good enough for a club of Chelsea's size, because they've shown they sack their managers for coming second and third.
You know what? It's funny you said Arteta, and I actually read in a recent book that a lot of players choose to play under Pep Guardiola because they want to learn the way he coaches. And Vincent Kompany talks about in the Master of Modern Football or Soccer with Grant Wall. He talks about he went and stayed with Man City because he loved the way Pep Guardiola learned and taught the game. He learned a lot underneath him. Xabi Alonso was another player who went to I believe at the time he was with Liverpool. I want to say Borussia Dortmund, and Pep Guardiola was there, and he went there to learn the way he manages the game. I think it's Borussia, or it may have been Liverpool.
Is this Xabi Alonso? Bayern Munich.
Yes.
Bayern Munich. Where
Bayern Munich. Thank you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because now he's gone to Real Madrid now. He's he's coaching lower down. But I think Xabi Alonso is going to be a top. But yeah, carry on. This is very interesting. It's a good point. Yes. I agree with this. Yeah.
And then they talk about they all talk about the same thing about the way he positions his players and the way he speaks to his players and how tactically smart he is. And Arteta played was managing under Pep Guardiola, and think about how much he's learned tactically to develop his game, and he's taking those ideas and he's probably expanded into his own philosophy now and how he's going to approach the game. And you're right, that's one thing that Arteta does have an advantage over Lampard and even Solskjaer. So does it worry me? Yeah, that you read my mind. I was going to say that tactically is the disadvantage that Frank Lampard has. But if there's one person where Roman Abrahmovich is going to have patience with, is going to give him a little bit more time, more than 2 years, it's Lampard. And apparently Lampard had a lot to do with why Timo Werner is coming to Chelsea. He apparently has this idea, this plan that really enticed Timo Werner, along with the contract, obviously. But apparently he sold the idea to him, and absolutely. I think Lampard's the type of guy who can learn on the fly, and he's learning a lot as he goes into his first year with Chelsea as a manager. Just like he showed as a player, where he always elevated his game season after season, kept them improving. He took the bad and made it into good, and that's what we're seeing here, is that when he makes a poor decision, he's quick to understand what went wrong. And Jody Morris is a very good assistant to help him in that area too. So I think the two have such a good relationship that they're willing to work together, and there's not one person who's more superior than the other, and that's something that's really helped Frank Lampard in his game. And also, I think he learned a lot at Derby County in his 1 year, and really being in the Championship League division lower. I think he saw the English Premier League in a different light, everything as a whole, and what those young players can offer as well. So that may have opened up his eyes and the other kind of side of where all these young players are being played and what they can provide.
Absolutely, that's a fantastic answer, and you make a really good point about the Championship. I mean, he beat Bielsa over 2 legs to get into the Championship final. And Marcelo Bielsa is a manager who Pochettino is credited for the style of play. Pep Guardiola he is a revered manager. And I think when I look at Lampard, and I'm just looking from a totally neutral point of view, I can see all the positives, but I just think, and knowing, for me, I just don't think you should appoint a manager because they are a fan favorite. Because I don't agree with that sentiment, because it's about winning. If the best manager is out there, you go and get it. And this is, I guess I'm applying what I see at Man United, to Chelsea, and even to Arsenal, is that if you were looking at the best managers out there currently, and I'm not saying you should get rid of Lampard, I'm just saying this is the way I would if I was running a club. Pochettino's out there, and Massimiliano Allegri's out there. You know everything about Allegri. I mean, he made Charles play out of the Serie A title. How many years in a row did they win it under him? Like four or 5 times, I believe.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And 2 Champions League finals. And I mean, you look at it now, and Sarri's come in, and the gap's been closed, obviously, with your beloved Lazio, who've been brilliant this year. And I hope they win it when it restarts. And then you've got Inter as well under your favorite manager, Conte. And what you're seeing, though, is that actually how good that Allegri was. So I mean, that's I guess where you're coming from. Where I'm coming from is that yes, Chelsea's Lampard's a fan favorite. Yes, Solskjaer's a fan favorite, but there always comes a point where you got to look at the manager, not the player anymore. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with it. That he needs to tweak it tactically. I mean, he lost 3 times to Solskjaer, and Solskjaer I wouldn't say is a tactical genius. I mean, that needs to change because you're spending a lot of money. But you're right when you talk about Werner, and that's a really good point. I read an article today, and Frank Lampard's what you said, what sold Werner to the Chelsea project. There's a lot of really talented young players. Werner's coming, yes, he's getting a big contract, but he's going to play in a young team that will grow. And if Chelsea keep on making the right acquisitions year on year, in 2 years' time, I think they'll challenge. Unless they'll need Liverpool to obviously either Klopp to leave or Liverpool to sell one of their front three maybe and close that gap. But it's definitely looking in the right direction. So anyway, let's go on to the next one. I know you have been very impressed with this player, and this is Kai Havertz. I think most of Twitter are now experts on him because they've watched about 3 games, and apparently he's the next big thing. But can you see him joining Chelsea? And if he does, where would he play? So my opinion on Havertz is that he's one of the most talented youngsters around at the moment. I think what I like about him is he's got a lot of versatility to him. He's played as second striker. He can play on the right wing. He can play as the most attacking midfielder. He's got excellent vision. I think he's added a lot of goals and assists this season to his game, especially since the turn of the year. I mean, I believe he's got about, I think it's 18 or 19 goal and assists combination. So Chelsea have been linked with him heavily. I kind of struggle to see where he fits in because we've already discussed all your options. Real Madrid are still in the picture. Obviously, Bayern Munich are as well. The asking price, as I've seen, is about 100 million euros, which is way more than anyone's willing to pay for him, which I think is a big risk. And as a United fan, because we've also got concrete evidence in him, concrete interest in him, 100 million euros exactly. And I look at Jadon Sancho at the moment, and if I was a United fan, I still want us to go for Sancho just because I think, 16 goals, 14 assists. I mean, that's up there with Messi in terms of combined goals and assists this season. So my question is, can you see Havertz joining, and can you see the logic to it? Because I can't see the logic if I'm looking at your options, because I think he would start in the midfield probably as a number 10. Mm-hmm. But I just don't see why that is the option if you're going to be trusting someone like Mount. That's all.
That's a good question. And if you're going to spend 100 million, by the way, I would buy Koulibaly. Before I even get into Kai Havertz, I'm going to say that if you told me today, Jerry, you have 2 options for your club, Chelsea. Do you want Kai Havertz at 100 million, or do you want Koulibaly at 100 million? I want Koulibaly because you've invested so much money into young talent. We've just described. We have Adoy, we have Pulisic we bought last year, like we just said. We have Abraham up front. Now you have Ziyech. There's options there, and they're gonna say, well, Koulibaly, he's not young. Well, he's going into his prime now.
Tell the listeners. Sorry, Jay, sorry to interrupt. But so a lot of Premier League fans have gone off Koulibaly this season. It's ridiculous. I think Koulibaly is probably second after Van Dijk. But just because you watch a lot of Italian football, tell the Premier League listeners more about Koulibaly and what sort of player he is and how much an impact he would make to any side in the world.
He was second right behind Maximovic on Saturday in blocks and in clearances. I think he had like 5 clearances in the goal area on Saturday. His presence is great. He can join the attack and score. He's very versatile. The fact that his presence in the box is so strong, his height, he can head the ball out when in defensive coverage, and even on set pieces on corner kicks. He's such a great player to have in the box to score. This is somebody who's he's not having the greatest season. I think a lot has to do with the African Nations Cup, where he was playing in the summer. He didn't have time to rest and prep with Napoli. He didn't really get any playing time with Kostas Manolas, and it's been a down season. But I think a lot of people have to understand how about his previous seasons and how he's been playing. This is his first bad year, and this is the same thing that happened to Sergei Milinkovic-Savic last year.
Yeah.
All the rumors got into his head, and he was wondering where he was going to be going, and it kind of reflected on his game. And a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you should sell him. You should take what you can get." And then now look, once again, he's worth almost 90 million, 100 million again, and he's top player again. And everybody has a bad year or a mediocre season, but don't let that cloud your judgment to think that they're just a bad player. That is the wrong way to go. Yeah. I don't agree with it. He's been playing for so many years, he has so much experience. He's such a great leader. He hasn't even complained this season with Napoli. He keeps on going on the field when he can. Injuries have hurt him too. It's part of the game, and for me, I think that this is a player that I would rather have than Kai Havertz. You have a guy in Timo Werner now, who can do the same thing and is a similar player. And if you're bringing in Kai Havertz, that only means one or two things: either a midfielder is out, or one of their wingmen is going to be out. I can see maybe Pulisic or Callum Hudson-Odoi, or even Loftus-Cheek out the door, because you bring in Havertz now.
Yeah,
at
that's crazy, because you've already spent 60 odd million on Pulisic the year before, and he hasn't shown half of what, or not even a 10% of what he can do. That kid is talented, and if he's used, I know he's had injuries this season, but like you say, I mean, we discussed earlier on in the week, didn't we? And you were saying that you think Havertz is better than Werner, if you were actually comparing the two players. I mean, I just think that it doesn't make sense, like you're saying. And when I look at that defense, if you could bring in Koulibaly for that amount of money, because it's just so logical, you need a leader at the back, you could still play with Zuma there, because I don't think Zuma's a terrible player. He's a good player. He's not one of the best centre backs around, but he does the job. So yeah, that's kind of my thinking on it.
No, you're absolutely right. And last thing I want to say about this is that compare the competition between the Bundesliga and the EPL. You got the first 4 or 5 teams, I say, that are, you got Bayern Munich, then you have Borussia Dortmund, then you got RB Leipzig, and then after that, it's a coin toss. Borussia Mönchengladbach, I think Mönchengladbach is a much better team than Bayer Leverkusen. I don't think Leverkusen is as good as people probably may think they are, and it's just there's no defensive strategy in the Bundesliga. I've been watching it since the restart from the lockout, and my weeks of being able to write about it and just get some ideas of what the league is like. It's very attacking, offensive minded, but if you watch these, other than Bayern Munich, no one knows how to play defense in this league. I'm sorry. It's very poor.
Very suspect at the back. But all their strengths going forward, I mean, they're the sort of side that, and that's why I haven't gone further in the Champions League. You look at the team, it's a very strong team. But in defense, and Mats Hummels back to Bayern Munich, and when Bayern Munich sell a big player, there's 2 things you've got to think. One, they're finished. Well, that's the only thing, really. They're finished. I mean, look at Man United. They bought Bastian Schweinsteiger, and that was a flop. And now you're seeing they're looking to get rid of Tolisso, and you've got to think. And I guess for me, going back to the point, is that you're right. You bring Havertz in, and I see the logic to United bringing Havertz in, because I don't think Pogba's going to stay, and we'll talk about Pogba next. I think he's got 1 more year. Juve can't afford him, and I know that that Real can't afford him this season. 1 more year, Havertz comes in, less pressure on him. Let's say Sancho comes in as well, and he just learns. He comes on, he gets integrated into the league, gets used to the speed of it. Because the Premier League, you watch the Premier League, it's a lot quicker than the German league, and probably the quickest league in Europe. And
no, you're right.
Yeah, and so that's why I could see the logic to that. But I just can't see Chelsea spending that much money. I don't think Havertz is going to move this summer, if I'm being honest. If they want 100 million euros, it's COVID. It's football post-COVID. Sancho is worth 120 million pounds now. They're saying 85 million. No one can afford that money. So, yeah, I'd agree with you. I think on the last point on this, before we go into Pogba, I think we should be seeing Chelsea looking towards someone like Koulibaly in defence rather than spending 100 million on Havertz. Okay, great. So the next topic is your favorite player, Paul Pogba. So as a United fan, I honestly I'm bored of talking about Paul Pogba, and because Paul Pogba was meant to come in, and I spoke on your podcast about this, and he was meant to be the one that lifted United into the new era, the new post-Fergie era, right? So you got to spend 90 million on him. Remember, we spent 90 million in 2016. I mean, that was, yeah, what, 4 years ago now? He's been at United for 4 years. And it's also 4 years ago, like 90 million now, we're like, okay, fine. But 90 million back then is a lot of money. And I can honestly count on my one hand how many like games I've sat back and I thought, wow, that's a 90 million pound player. He doesn't want to be at the club. He's made that very clear. And to his credit, and to be fair to him, he has said, I want to leave. And we've known this. And you can't build you can't build a team, or you can't build a title challenge around a player that doesn't want to be there. Fast forward to January this year, and United make probably one of the best signings in Bruno Fernandes that I can think of in a very, very long time. And I'm talking not just United. I'm talking about in Europe. And what he's done is he's shown exactly what Pogba should have done. He came in, he had that elite mentality. He was creative. He was playing with passion. He was playing with hunger. He was directing the people around. And this guy's been in the club for about 5 minutes, and he's lifted spirit. He's lifted the standards. And United haven't looked back since Bruno came in. For me now, Bruno is top dog. He's the one who is the man at United. And from the past sort of actions that Paul Pogba has done, I don't think Paul Pogba is the sort of person that if it was me and you, and I came into your house and tried to be the top dog, you'd kick me down, fight me for it, right? I don't think Paul Pogba was the sort of person that would do that. I think he sees that he's not the top dog and he wants to leave. He wants to go. He won't put his head down and fight Bruno for it. And that's my opinion. So I guess where I'm going with this is, what is your view on Pogba for the listeners on the Premier League trio? Because they've never heard your view on Pogba, and how is he going to react to Bruno now coming in and being the main man?
Well, in Juventus, he was always the second guy. So Pogba was always overshadowed by so many good players that he was able just to play his game, and that was it. He just went about doing his thing. He has this talent where he's able to produce, and now all of a sudden he goes to Manchester United and he's the number one guy, and we don't have no longer these players are overshadowing him.
Pirlo.
Yeah, exactly. So now you have Bruno Fernandes, and will Pogba step up and say, you know what, I need to earn my spot back? Or the fact that they could play together in the midfield, because Fernandes is more of a attack-minded type of player. I think Pogba can probably do both. I don't watch much of Manchester United, but I'm pretty sure that Pogba is more of a all-around kind of player in the midfield, and I'm pretty sure that you can use both together in the midfield. They'll offset each other, but I think Pogba needs to get his head straight, and at the end of the day, you're getting paid a lot of money to be playing the game, and that's something that hasn't come into his game is maturity, and just he's too much into like, I want to leave the club. This is not for me. And when the challenge arises to him, he doesn't know how to approach it, or he just chooses not to. That's another option too, that he just shies away. And last season was his best year in his career, and I'm pretty sure Manchester United fans were thinking, well, here's the Pogba we've been really waiting for, scoring 13 goals last year. Yeah. And now he's gone down to a whole different world. And in the first game of the season against Chelsea, he played such a great match. And I remember
that pass to Rashford.
Yes, that pass was unbelievable. Yeah. And you're thinking, well, here we go. Pogba is going to have a good year when you see this game. And then injuries started to set in, and then the media started to get in, and there's just one thing after another. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, well, maybe this guy just shouldn't be here. Yes, talent. Who doesn't want to buy talent? But at the end of the day, when you have a player who's talented as Pogba but can't put it together, and is always in the media and is telling Manchester United that he doesn't want to be there. He wants out, and this is a player who needs to be a leader, especially for how much the club is investing in him, what they're expecting from him. And if you have another club that is willing to pay X amount of dollars that will help Manchester United in the long run, I don't see why you wouldn't want to. You got Bruno Fernandes now, way better than Pogba, I think. Way better. I think he's going to be much better.
How highly do you rate Bruno? Because it's interesting. I see an excellent player. For me, the standard is Kevin De Bruyne in the Premier League, and maybe in Europe. I think Kevin De Bruyne is incredible, and I think he's got so much to his game. And people think Pogba's better than De Bruyne. I think Pogba's more talented, but like you say, you can have all the potential in the world. If your head ain't right, it's like Balotelli, for example. Great talent, but his head has never been right. And you see throughout the game, there's so many young players that have literally the world at their feet. And that's why I say about Hudson-Odoi, he has the world at his feet, and he needs to be careful. He needs to knuckle down and focus on his football and do what he has got to do to even reach that talent. But the way I see it with Bruno, and a lot of rival fans have been saying a lot of negative stuff about him because, in my opinion, I think they're worried because they're seeing a player that's come in a short space of time, he's lifted United. But how good do you think Bruno can be?
Well,
let's talk about in a European sense, because so let's talk about who would you say are the top. I don't know, let's say the top 5 sort of attacking midfielders in Europe.
Ooh, well, that's
De
a good
Bruyne.
question. De Bruyne is so good. I can't. Didn't Chelsea screw up with him? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Salah.
Every time I think about that, Salah is
De
a really good.
Lukaku is another one.
I really like Lukaku.
Yeah.
Who else would you? Oh man.
Let's say De Bruyne. I'd say let's look at, for example, Thomas Muller's up there at the moment with the way he's playing.
Yes.
Munich. Let's see. Serie A. Talk to me about Serie A. Who's the top sort of attacking midfielders in Serie A?
Attacking midfielder in Serie A. A lot of people will probably point to. It's a good question. Tonali is really good. He's an up and coming, very young. I really like Christian Eriksen I think he's really underrated personally.
Very underrated.
I think he's a really good player.
We look at Barca, for example. Like you look at their sort of their options. I mean, I suppose you put Messi up there, but sort of let's say attacking midfielders. I would say that Bruno Fernandes can break into that top 5. I reckon within a season or a season and a half. But do I think Pogba can? I just don't see Pogba having that sort of staying power or that application to do that. And you know what? If he thinks that he can go to Real Madrid, which I think would be the wrong move, but he can go there and they'll accept him. One name I'm going to say to you, Eden Hazard. Eden Hazard had literally the adoration of the fans. He was the best player in the league at Chelsea. And he's gone to Real Madrid. He's had a tough season, injuries, but they don't care. After one game, they'll have the white hankies and they'll want you out because that's the disgusting club they are. Both them and Barcelona. I can't stand them. But what I'm trying to say is that Pogba's got it very easy here with United fans. United fans are loyal. You know me. We've discussed football a lot of times, and we've been rubbish for a long time. But I'm still loyal. I'm still a balanced fan, and I think Pogba needs to realise that grass isn't always greener. And if he starts playing well, which I'm very excited to see him and Bruno play together. I think they've potentially the ball. And you put Matic sitting there, someone else to allow them to go forward. But if he starts to play well and United starts getting up the table, I mean, why would you want to leave?
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point. I don't know. I just think that with Bruno Fernandes being very young still, he's only 25. Every season he's progressed. Look, he's got 20 goals last year, and then eight goals in this season he had in 17 games, 11 goals prior to last season, and he's just excelling every year, and he plays at a consistent level. So you're getting a consistent player as opposed to Pogba, where he's had one good year in the last 4 with 13 in the last 4 years. He scored 13 goals last year, and then after that 6-5, and he can't even stay healthy the whole season.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And the thing is, you look at that season last year where he got 13 goals. A lot of them were penalties. But I missed 5 penalties that year. He's a stupid run-up. But also, that was all literally in the space of that 3 months when Solskjaer first came in. That 3 months that got him the job. That Pogba was out of this world. So I guess for me, as a United fan, he's not going anywhere for a year. I think that maybe this will help him not having the pressure on him as the main man. Because it looks like Bruno's a leader. That's what it looks like. You now got Harry Maguire at the back. Maybe it will be a case of what it was like at Juventus, where you got Pirlo, you got Vidal. Just play your game, mate. And I think from looking at the reports, you're saying Bruno's more attacking. I agree, but I think from what they're saying is that they'll play 3 in midfield. Pogba will play further forward, and Bruno will be more of a number 8 because of his industry, the way he works hard defensively, and it allows Pogba to focus on attacking. And if he can start put his head down and work hard, then United are in for a treat, I think.
No, absolutely. And just a side topic, have you heard the reports that United's actually interested in Ciro Immobile?
I saw that. That's got to be rubbish. Surely that's got to be rubbish.
I thought so too, but I was like, oh, man.
I love that guy. I think he is. I mean, how underrated is he? Think about it. How you know him better than me, but every time I watch a little bit of Serie A, he's always up there in terms of standings for goals. Always. Since he's moved to Lazio. I mean, he struggled at Dortmund. He struggled at Sevilla, which is why I think as good as he is, I feel like he struggles abroad. Stay where you are. You're doing really well. You're banging the goals.
Mm-hmm.
You're challenging for the Serie A title. But I think that's absolutely rubbish. I mean, we are looking for a striker. I don't know if I see Martial as someone you can rely on, not in terms of ability, in terms of injury record up front. But tell us a little bit about Immobile and how good he actually is, because I don't think many Premier League fans actually appreciate how many goals he scored over the last 2 to 3 years.
What formation does Manchester United normally play? Are they like a 4-3-3?
Yeah, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1.
See, it wouldn't work well for him because he needs to play in a 3-5-2. And a 4-3-3, I find that it's too congested for him. He needs space. He likes to play off the pass. And that's what Luis Alberto is really good at doing with Immobile. Is he's really good at getting to the through balls and clear lanes and sending the passes to him. And he really works well in stride. So I think it's the fact that Simone Inzaghi has really gotten the best out of Immobile, and he's been able to play his game and just be the lead man up front. And I think that a lot of players, it takes some time to find their niche, their home. And players such as like Dries Mertens, I think that it would be a mistake for him to go to Chelsea as much as I would love to see him in Chelsea. I think that he is suited for Napoli. There are players that are suited for a certain team.
Marek Hamsik was another one, wasn't he, for Napoli?
Yep. I wish he had never left. There's just like Messi leaving Barcelona. It's not anybody who thinks that he's leaving. It's not. There are certain homes where players have to finish their career, and that's just the basic of it. Once they leave their domain, I don't think they're that player again. So if Immobile were to leave Lazio and go to Manchester United, I don't think he'd be as successful as he is with Lazio, because I think the formation fits his style, the way he's really devoted to the team. He's been able to play with players that really suit his skill as well. And it's not just one player that is able to just be at that top level. There's other contributing factors that allows him to become who he is. Aside from Luis Alberto, you got Milinkovic-Savic, who is another player who can distribute the ball very well. And I think it's their midfield that creates the space and the gap where it allows him to work very well off the counterattack and go in transition. So if Immobile were to leave for another club, I don't know I don't think he would be the same player personally. No. And he has to play in a 3-5-2. I think there are players that are suited for a certain role, and especially with strikers. If you don't play in a 4-3-3, say, it's much different compared to a 3-5-2. The space up front is much different. You're not playing with the wingers on the side.
You've got to have
different.
you've got to have a strong and creative midfield or someone creative behind you, and you could actually So United have played three at the back against the big sides several times, and what they've done is they've played split strikers. So they played Rashford or Martial either together, or they played Daniel James together. They've used pace. You could actually see Immobile thriving. It's just this is like devil's advocate. It's not going to happen. It's just one of those silly rumors that Man United get linked to 100 players every transfer window, and it's just the way it is. You put United's name there, and you get a new contract, which is double. It's just the way it is. Look at Sergio Ramos. But let's play devil's advocate. Imagine you have Bruno and Pogba feeding Immobile. I mean, it could be really tasty.
That's actually a good point. That could be like the Luis Alberto, Milinkovic-Savic kind of tandem. That's a very good point. That would actually possibly work for him.
Because I've seen Luis Alberto quite a few times, well, more this season than in previous seasons, and he's been so impressive. What a really underrated player. Did he used to play for Liverpool?
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
I think yes, you're right. Yes.
Yeah, and he did nothing over there really. But when I look at sort of the way that Lazio play, and I do see similarities in terms of some of the personnel. I think if you're going to look at a player that's most similar to Paul Pogba, it would be Milinkovic-Savic. And I know a lot of United fans are big. I'm a big fan of Milinkovic-Savic, and if Pogba goes, he'd be the top of my list to come in. But if it did happen, you can see that similarities. I think Bruno's similar to Luis Alberto in the way that creativity, and it's an interesting point. But let's go on to the last question, because we could talk about this all day, and we both love football. But
to add to the attacking midfielders, I would say Luis Alberto is probably one of the top 5-10 right now. That's another one.
I agree. I was thinking. I'm surprised you didn't say that. I was thinking that. I mean, you look at the talents out there. I just think with last point on Paul Pogba is that for everyone, the best thing is if he puts his head down, works hard, gets his move next year. I'd be like, send him my best wishes and just go. But work hard, earn your move, help United to be better, and go to Real, go to Juve. I don't mind, but I just want him to apply himself, because it's just nothing more frustrating than knowing a player is so talented and just not putting in the effort. Last one. So Chelsea are playing Aston Villa this weekend. How do you see Chelsea's top 4 chances? That's the first question I want to ask. Do you think you'll make the top 4?
I think they can still make it. You got United, who's behind them, and then you have, I believe, Arsenal as well, right? I haven't looked at the standings off the top of my head, but you know what? It's anybody's game. I think that it's a coin toss. It all depends how. I think the advantage here is that Lampard has a deep squad. He has a lot of options. There should be a lot of more healthy players coming back now. Abraham should be fully healthy. Callum Hudson-Odoi will be much more healthier. I'm not sure if Ruben Loftus-Cheek is practicing. I think you mentioned that before the show.
Yeah, he scored a couple of goals against QPR. He looked really good, and so did Gilmore. So Chelsea definitely got options. I mean, I think what's interesting is that now, so for example, Spurs, this has been the best thing that's happened for them, because Mourinho was playing. He lost the 2 best players, Son and Kane, to injuries. So now everyone is back to full strength. So for me, when I look at Chelsea, I personally think United are going to pip Chelsea to 4th. I think Leicester are far ahead now. They're about 5 points ahead. But I think Chelsea, as good as they've been, United's full side with Bruno and Pogba is stronger, with Rashford back as well. Mm-hmm. I just think United will pip Chelsea to 4th place.
I'm just scared about the scoring for Chelsea. If Abraham's not scoring, I'm just curious to see who else is going to step up and score for this team. That's the biggest thing that worries me. But it'll be interesting to see. I do think that they can solidify 4th. It's very wide open. Manchester United has been good this season. I think they're just recently they've been showing better form, like you said, underneath Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
Aston Villa. It's not Aston Villa. Arsenal has a small chance, probably. It's a whole new season, so we don't know what to expect. So you got to
think that the no home fans is a big thing, because let's say Villa are fighting for their lives, and it's at home this game, but there's no fans there, and the fans make so much difference and lift the side. And I think what you'll see is you look at Bayern Munich, the top sides are now coming up and they're winning because it's like a training game for them essentially. So I think it's a difficult one. I think United will pick Chelsea. But what do you think? Yes, fourth or not?
I think they should get fourth. Would it surprise me if they didn't? No, it wouldn't surprise me. But I think that if
is that a failure then?
No, it's not. I think the expectations are, you're asking too much for a guy in his first season, and you also have to remember they had the transfer ban back in the summer, so he entered the season with not many options. He made the best of what he had. He has them fighting in a spot for the Champions League now. They've only bought 2 players since that time, Ziyech and they took up the option of Mateo Kovacic. He has him still in the FA Cup, who they're set to play Leicester. And then what else? And they still have a second leg against Bayern Munich, which is most likely done. Yeah. They're not coming back in that, but I think he's done a good job. He's got out of the group stage of the Champions League. He's got into, I believe, the round of 8 for FA Cup.
Yeah.
And then you have competing for a 4th spot, even possibly 3rd, because you never know. That can come up for grabs as well. So nothing's for sure. We don't know what the form teams are going to show. So I think that Lampard has done a great job. He's benched players, like I said, when he has to. He's put Willie Calabero in when he has to. So he's made a lot of decisions that I feel that a lot of other managers may have not. And to loop back to what you were saying before, I don't think that they chose Lampard because he's a fan favorite. I think they chose Lampard because they had limited options. Think about how many people would have taken this job knowing that there's a ban. You're not able to buy the players that you want for your squad. You have
Allegri
to choose.
Definitely would have said no. I reckon Chelsea definitely spoke to Allegri. They must have done. He came available. He wanted to work for a top English side because he's learning English lessons apparently. 100% he would have said no. 100%.
No, absolutely. And I think that the biggest thing is that he probably could have asked who's the one that's coaching with Aston Villa. What's his name? It's a blank right now. John Terry. I think John Terry was also an option, but I think there's a little friction between him and Roman. So I think that has boiled down to the fact that
the reason like he left? So why do you think?
I think so, personally, and I think at the end of the day, this is a new era. And when was the last time that a guy such as Lampard was hired by Chelsea, who has probably the best relationship with Abramovich, and who knows how long of all these managers? I think his relationship with Abramovich is so strong that he has the backing of the owner, and he's willing to give him more than 1-2 seasons, say, to become that guy to lead Chelsea. I think this is an open void year. Like Roman's saying, this year doesn't even count because of the circumstances that are happening. Next year will be his trial year. In his 3rd season, then you'll start to see a little bit of the more pressure coming in, what to expect. He needs to buy players still. He's only bought in really one player. It's Hakim Ziyech. So I think that
I completely agree. That's a great point. I mean, I think where I'll disagree with you is I think that better for him is to get top 4, no matter what the squad was. Because when I look at midfield, that's I guess next. I'm not going to ask for full lineup because I think it picks itself. The back 4 and the front 3 usually does. But midfield is the area where they've got probably one of the strongest ones. I would say definitely up there with the likes. I mean, on paper, I'd say Chelsea's midfield actually looks better than Liverpool's. But Liverpool, I mean, Klopp's got them playing out this completely. I mean, the system is unbelievable. And that's one of Klopp's strengths, that he can elevate the players that perhaps with not as much ability to a level which is crazy. But for me, I think Chelsea have to finish top 4, otherwise it's a failure. And I think it will be a failure if Frank doesn't But what would be your starting midfield three? So for me, I think Kante doesn't look like he'll play. I know that he didn't want to play because apparently he has got some sort of heart condition or allegedly or some sort of heart scare. So I think he's out of the picture, and I think he will actually be a deciding factor because he is that good, and you haven't had him most of the season. So him coming in can completely change the top four race. But for me, I think the starting lineup in midfield will be Jorginho at the base. I think Kovacic. And the next position is an interesting one. I think he might give Gilmour a start because he was so good after. But Loftus-Cheek is back and he looks good. I think he'll ease him in. I don't think he'll rush him in. And I think Mount will probably play on the wing. So what do you think?
I think he's going to go with Mount. He'll go with Mason Mount. He'll have Jorginho and he'll have Kovacic. I think that's what the midfield will look like. And up front, you'll probably have Callum Hudson-Odoi on the right, Tammy Abraham in striking position, and
Pulisic,
I would say on the left. Yeah, even Willian. That's true, even Willian. I would rather see Pulisic, though. You want to start playing the players who are with the club for next season. Do you really need to play Willian? Obviously, I think you do, but...
I think he's going to go. The reports are that he wants a 3-year deal, but as you know, Chelsea's policy for players over 30 years old, no matter whether you're Willian or you're John Terry, you get a 1-year deal. And from all reports, he's very settled in London. Apparently he might move to another London club, so maybe he'll finally get to Spurs after a 7-year medical at Chelsea. but I think we can safely say that Pedro is out the door. And I think Pedro's been good for you, and I think he won't play. So yeah, I think it's time to start playing the youngsters. But okay, so last point. What's your prediction? Chelsea versus Villa.
I'll go 2-1 Chelsea because they can't keep a clean sheet if their life depended on it.
Nice one. I'm going to go 3-1 Chelsea. Anyway, Jerry, it's been an absolute pleasure, and it's always great chatting football with you. And you're always knowledgeable. You're always a good laugh, and it's nice to see you've been in the kit store raiding all the Chelsea stuff. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, and you'll find Jerry's @handle. We'll post it when we post the video, and you'll find this on YouTube, and we'll release a few clips as well of some of Jerry's more nuanced points and his more tactical points. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in our next recording. Thank you. Bye.